So yeah, well, this is a couple different, I have different interests, and my main interest, or my main focus, has been since I became a massage therapist, which is about 16 years ago, was to, I didn't have the intent, but once I started working with the physical body, I started noticing there was a lot more going on with the physical body than what we just see in the physical form. And it's been a life, it seems like a lifelong, it hadn't been that long, but it seems like a very long time, because I spent all my time doing it. It wasn't something I did part-time. It was something I was eating, breathing, living, was trying to get this information and understand the mind and the body much more. And I've got like 55 YouTube videos, probably I don't know how many hours, but how many hours that would be. It's close to probably close to 40 hours worth of information that goes really into in-depth things like the Ark of the Covenant is really the sphenoid bone that's located inside your head right here. So if I'm pointing right here, what part of the head am I touching? Temple. The temple, right? That's funny. The sphenoid bone is right there where you're touching, right? So to me, the biblical texts are really talking about us, which is the temple, is the connection between father and mother in different ways. And when I talk about religion, I'm not focusing on religion in these classes, but I can't help but bring some of that in because that's just who I am. So let me start this. The mission statement is to help one live from or embody the heart with a peaceful and focused mind. So to me, where I'm being pushed more and more, and it's a lot of shifts that I'm going through, is like, okay, I've studied all this information. Now it's like the guidance I'm getting is, okay, let me see you live it. Let me see you embody it. Let me see you actually be it, not just think it. And I think that's where we all get tripped up. It's easy to read a book. It's easy to go on a weekend little thing where you study and come to this group even and get some information. But living it is where it gets really hard. So, and not hard particularly. It's difficult to embody it. So we're going to be focusing more on that. And to me, the way to embody being more aware, being more spiritual, to me, is to look at our own bodies and see where we're off. Because that's the reflective. That's the thing that's right in our face all the time. It's telling us where we're on and where we're off. So it is one thing to read and obtain new information, but said information like religion is useless unless one can embody the information. So you can go to church every weekend, but if you're not living that information, I mean, what are you really getting from that, right? We embody information by practicing. I was talking to Deborah the other day, and that's probably the best way of putting it. It really, I mean, she said it, and I really liked it, it's the practicing of what we have read that is actually the embodying part. And it's not like all of a sudden overnight you've got like you're doing everything, right? It's like you got to practice. If it's about unconditional love, that's something you got to practice. And usually we have to practice, which Bambi was talking about when she came in. Usually you practice in what we call the negative state. That's where you really get to practice unconditional love. It's easy when everybody's all happy, but we get both sides. And our practice usually involves being in the hard times in life. That's when we really get to own it. So there's some effort involved with practicing. That's why it's so much easier to keep reading new books. I've done this myself. It's like read something and I get some information, but then I run on to jump into some other information. And I posted this on Facebook. It's like digging a bunch of shallow holes, but never getting really deep where you need to go. And it's like just pick something and keep going with it. So we're going to take this information. It's spent me a lot of time putting together, years, and just keep going deeper and deeper with it. So what is practicing? Practicing is putting forth effort to do those things you read about. It is the action side of growth and self-development. So we're going to have different aspects within this. We're going to have the verbal exchange, is like the attunement, if you like to say. We're going to be incorporating some chanting and meditation for some that are into that. The Kundalini and yoga I'm limited with because of space, so we're not going to be doing any like major yoga poses. We may be doing mudras and things like that. And then pranayama, which is breath work. To me, it's like all those exercises help us to embody it. So, like I said, the verbal, what we're reading is the attunement to something. The chanting and the meditation is developing your focus and consciousness. And the Kundalini and Qigong, anything you do physically is about clearing out these meridians and making the vessel better, right? Because to me, we're not much more than this, okay? It's a flute, right? You can think about these little 7 holes here as being the 7 chakras. Okay? It's the energy, the wind, that comes through this instrument that creates the music. Are we doing it? Can we do it by ourselves? Hell no. There's no way in hell that we can create music in of ourselves. It's us making our instrument the best it can be, which means clearing out anything with, like this. What interesting thing about a flute is it's practically hollow, right? But yet that's where this beautiful music comes from. So a lot of our work is hollowing out and getting all this crap out of the way that prevents music from happening. Because if it's blocked, no music can come through. And music is harmony, okay? And we hear about that all the time, harmony. And the Zen Buddhist kind of practice, it's Dharma is how they refer to that. And what's really interesting is Dharma and harmony have the four in Dharma it's the 4 center letters. In harmony, it's the first 4 letters. It's harm. So harmony and living dharmically, which means living correctly, means doing the least amount of harm that you can. And this building, insects and lots of things had to die. People probably cut their finger. Lots of harm came about to bring this about. But there's ways of living that we have the least amount of harm for harmony to happen. Because harm's going to happen. You're living. There's harm. You're going to be harming things just driving to work. Okay. So harm is going to happen, but the spiritual balance is becoming in balance with how much harm you do. Does that make sense? So when I talk about spiritual things, I'm not trying to make this a spiritual class, but I can't help it because to me, we have the physical body, like the bobbin in a sewing machine, and then on top you have the other thread, right? It's like the physical and the metaphysical. You cannot separate those things. You need both. So if you go to a doctor and you just address the physical, that's only half the picture. If you go into a psychologist and you're just addressing that side, that's only half the picture. To me, psychology and medicine should have never been split. They should be working together on the same person at the same time. And I try to do that. And I'm going to try to help you do that yourselves, for yourself, your clients, or friends, family. So spirituality, not religion. I see religion as the cover of a book, the label, the outside. And spirituality is what's inside. Spirituality isn't the words, but the practice of the words. Unfortunately, religion, or the misinterpretation of it, leads people to judge one another, which only separates people and stunts growth. Spirituality unites and goes beyond words and belief systems. Some of what we will discuss will bring in components of spirituality and religion. I personally don't care what you believe or judge anyone for what they believe. If I share something, it is because I think it fits and helps define or describe something. Is that clear? Okay. For those of us that have been practicing for a while, we're gonna open with a little chant. If you do not like doing this, if you feel uncomfortable, if it goes against anything you believe, you don't have to do it. But I'm going to show a little video. He's going to run us through it, and I really like this video because he brings it home.
Okay, so let's chant this.
And what we're going to be chanting are these words right here. Ong Namo Guru De Namo. And what that means is I'm connecting to that space in me that connects me to God. And in yoga, where they go Namaste, that's what that means. Namaste, my favorite definition, thank you. People have to keep my brain going in the group. My favorite definition of that is when I'm in that, of Namaste, is when I'm in that place in me, and you're in that same place in you, we are one. And that's another aspect of living from that spiritual place. So this is a way of invoking, connecting to that spiritual aspect within you, but also connecting to God, and it's invoking protection. Because when you do certain spiritual practices, there is something about protecting yourself within that. So I like the way he describes this Ong Namo, and so I'm going to play it and let him talk. And we chant this 3 times, and he'll go through the whole process.
Okay, so let's chant this mantra now. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo 3 times, and then we can start our warm-up stretching series. Okay? First of all, place the palms together. This is called a mudra, or a hand position. Different mudras do different things. They mostly affect brain function. In this case, having the palms...
So that's really important. The mudras, where you touch different meridians and things like that, they affect different brain function. So when you cut a particular finger, like this is your colon, your index finger, when you cut that, there's a lot more going on than you just accidentally cutting your finger. Okay? There could be something Colon relates to letting go. Could be that you're having a problem letting something go. You've got some grief that you can't let go of. Then it's like, we'll accidentally have an accident. But to me, there is no accident. Synchronistically, something brings energy to that to move it.
Yes. We'll balance the left side of the body, which the yogis call the moon side, and the right side of the body, which the yogis call the sun side. It balances the body. Now place the base of the thumbs against the sternum. Okay? A little bit of pressure there helps you to concentrate. And now roll the shoulders back and down. Have the chest high, the chin level to the ground, and the eyes gently closed and focused at the brow point. Generally speaking, when we practice yoga, we like to have the eyes closed so you can concentrate on what's happening to you from the inside out. I know in this medium, that's a little bit difficult because you want to see what's going on, especially if there are words on the screen. If you need to keep looking at the screen, then that's okay. However, when you do feel comfortable with what you're doing, what I'd recommend is that you close your eyes as quickly as you can and just listen to the commands I'm going to give you with my voice. Okay? Now sit up tall, chest high, chin level. Lower back is tucked in, shoulders rolled back and down, eyes closed, focused, half an inch up from the eyebrows and a half an inch out from the forehead. This is referred, and I'll refer to it as the brow point, or the third eye point, or Ajna chakra. And now spend a moment bringing your thoughts to this time and this place. Feel comfortable, alert, yet relaxed. Now let's use our tune-in mantra. We chant it 3 times to make sure that we have covered all the bases, the inner self, the outer self, and the blend and balance of the two. When you chant the first time, think and feel as though you're a point in the universe, a single concentrated point. Make yourself as concentrated as you can, and concentrate on the inner part of your core, just as you sit right here. The second time we chant the mantra, spread yourself out. Let yourself distribute and spread out throughout the entire universe. Make yourself as big as you can. And the third time that we chant the mantra, blend the two. Your small self, your large self, your unit self, and your largest self. Okay, if you're not comfortable with this mantra, listen to it the first time through and see if you can join us the second and third times through. Okay, inhale deeply through the nose. And exhale, relax the breath and relax the hands.
I like the way he described that. Plus, I like doing a meditative practice like that. We're going to be doing that pretty much every time to bring us centered and focused. Because all of us come, when you walk somewhere, you ever think about the energy that you bring behind you? It's like you had the conversation a minute ago, in your car, you argued yesterday. It's like that, this kind of trails you, like a meteor has a tail, right? And meditating kind of puts that shield up and brings you and centers you, lets your mind balance left and right. Because he mentioned right, the moon side of the brain is the right side, and then the left side is the sun. Again, it's the yin and the yang, right? Yin is nighttime. Just like if you look at the yin on the yin and the yang, which is not two-dimensional, it's more than that. It's the night sky and the moon, and then the yang is the daytime, right, with the sun. So, oh man, I wonder if I forgot that book. You're good.
So I gotta give him one leg. God gave him long legs for a reason.
All right. I wanted to read this to you. It caught my attention. You know, when I'm doing a class, I'm putting something together, it's like you're tuning into that, and then things will jump off out of a shelf, or, you know, it'll catch your attention. You'll look, you know, I walk by my bookshelf back there, which anybody's free to take a book and return it or trade. And then if I'm focusing on something, I'll look at the bookcase, and it's whatever my eyes first fall on. I'll just pick it up and then maybe, you know, do this back and forth and see where I land. Excuse me. And this came to me earlier this week when I was working on this. So I'm going to read this to you related to what we're about to discuss about the mind and the body. We do not need to belabor the point that we are what we think, and that the body is a reflection of what we are. Even now, given the illness, disease, accidents, troubles, and problems of a person's life, any good practitioner or psychosomatic medicine or science of mind can draw up a fairly accurate description of the thinking, of the mental, emotional, and spiritual condition of that person. And we're doing that all the time here, right? We're always looking at, we're going to be looking at the head, the neck, and the shoulders. And there's a lot, just within this area right here, you can have a volume of information about somebody just from that information in your face. And it's talking to you 24/7. Remember last Thursday when y'all were tapping on me? And I was doing this with my head, right? Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Deborah the other day, and it came out that I was here, you know, remember left side is the feminine where we receive energy, right? And the right side is where we go out like masculine, shaking hands, right? So I had been, in a way, retreating from receiving some things that I needed to receive. I'm sorry. You can sit right there. You can sit right here, Burns. Is there anybody right next to you, Marianne? So the body has tons of information. Just picking out one part tells you a lot. So long as he gets an accurate list, he will know the areas of weakness in that person's life, even though he does not know the person himself. All this goes back to the remarkable sentence from the book of John. The Word has, this is like from the Bible, the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Our thoughts, attitudes, ideas, fears, emotions, and beliefs became flesh in ways we sometimes never guess. And that's exactly what's happening to us 24/7. It is common enough to hear someone say, I just made myself sick with worry, or I worried myself sick. The worry, of course, was translated into illness. Since this is so common, and since almost everyone agrees that the result of worry can be and often is illness, isn't it strange that we do not hear anyone say, I made myself well with creative, healing thinking, or I thought myself well? For the truth is that creative thinking translates itself into healing just as readily as negative worry thinking translates itself into illness. Why then do we not hear such a statement, except possibly from those who know and practice the principles and truths revealed in this book? Because so few men and women ever learn the truth that they have a healing power as well as a destructive power within their own mind, and that the body responds according to this kind the body responds accordingly to the kind of thinking they do. With every thought, they are translating inner power into outer form. That's super important. Inner power into outer form. For those who can read these signs, each one of us is a walking advertisement for the kind of translation he is making. Although we are born into this world, the unwitting translator of our thoughts into body state and conditions, we do not need to remain that unwitting translator. In other words, we're always doing this, but we don't have to continue doing it and then we blame the world or our body for a particular issue. We need to go inside and find out what the real problem is. The process of translation continues despite us, so we may as well start making it produce pleasant, acceptable, desirable results. If every thought we had, every belief we held were written down and then translated into all the world's language to be posted on some public bulletin board, you can be quite sure we would watch and discipline our thinking more carefully. Yet, every thought we have, every belief we hold is noted in the mysterious bulletin board of the subconscious. Remember that movie,
Subconscious Facebook.
Yeah. And remember the movie Inception? Remember how they implanted something in the subconscious and then you made up a story? It's how we dream. We got all this stuff in our subconscious and we translate it into a dream. So we're doing this all the time. How is it, then, that we are so careless about watching and disciplining those thoughts? Is it because the private pain is easier to bear than the public embarrassment? This may be part of it, but there seems to be an even more subtle reason. It is because the translation of thought into form is such a slow process that the thinker seldom connects the thoughts with the subsequent pain. The translation usually takes time, and by the time it is finished, the translator has forgotten what started it at all, which is usually a bunch of childhood stuff. We have those patterns. I mean, most of our patterns come from childhood.
So it's kind of like the message game.
Yeah. These final words, then, are to remind you, the thinker, that the process of translation is going on whether you know it or like it. That you can best learn something about the rhythm, meter, and laws that sonnet called your mind, so that you will not bungle the job you are called upon to do, and end with a translation unworthy of a creator, of the masterpiece with which you began. Today, somewhere, a belief in separation will translate into a broken bone. Somewhere else, the attitude of hatred and hostility will be translated into a stroke. Over the years, extended feelings of loss, rejection, or unworthiness, or of futility, hopelessness, and depression may be translated into leukemia and cancer. Tension and irritation find their physical form in ulcers, stomach trouble, and kidney issues. Somewhere, a sense of overload, a belief in burdens too heavy to bear, is being translated into backaches, headaches, heart trouble, muscle spasms, and organic breakdown. Somewhere, the feeling of restriction and limitation, the belief in the status quo simply because it is the status quo, the emotion of resentment and irritation are all being translated into arthritis, bursitis, and rheumatism. The translations are all around us and in us, and yet we so often fail to realize what they are. We attribute our illness and difficulty to so many things other than ourselves. We are part of a vast library of translation. Back of them and responsible for them are the thoughts, attitudes, ideas, fears, emotions, and beliefs of those minds which they represent. Is your translation adequate, desirable, worthy, healthy, vigorous? If not, if it is poor, weak, sickly, uncertain, incompetent, what can you do about it? The answer is an easy one. If you will apply yourself, remembering that sentence, the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Keep the Word within you strong, confident, positive, creative, and thankful. Remember to use the kind of material for your translation that will make it what you want it to be. Allow yourself none of the ideas, attitudes, emotions, or beliefs that have no choice but to manifest themselves in weakness and ill health. It is more than a moral issue. It is an issue of health or illness, strength or weakness, life or death. If you want to stay well, you must use only positive, healing, loving, faithful field material for the most amazing translation, your body. John Donne carried this idea of translation one step further. It seemed appropriate to quote him as we reach the end of this book. All mankind is one author and is one volume. When one man dies, one chapter is not torn out of the book, but translated into a better language, and every chapter must be translated. God employs several translations. Some pieces are translated by age, some by sickness, some by war, some by justice. But God's hand is in every translation, and his hand shall bind up all our scattered leaves again for the library, where every book shall lie open to the other. And we're going to go into how the physical body is reflecting the mind and the emotions all the time. I'm going to skip that quote.
You know, when we speak our words, I've heard it said too that we're vibration, that's all we are. So as we walk into it, we're walking into the vibration of the words that we've spoken in the past. So we just walk into that vibration.
Yeah.
So we may speak, the vibration of what we're speaking now may be something that we're walking into like 2 days from now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, think about how many times you do that just in your visuals, because your visuals are inside words, right? Like they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Let's say you have an interview for a job, and here you start this negative thought. You know, they're not going to want me. Well, you're putting that out into the reality. And sometimes we will cause what they call a self-prophesizing issue, because you are so stressed and nervous that you bumble up the interview or something like that. And that's just one of many examples. So what we're going to do, you've got a couple of sheets here. Does everybody have this sheet? You should have all those stapled together, right? Who doesn't have the colored sheet? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take an inventory. Remember, you learn best about life by studying yourself. And if you know yourself, you'll know somebody else even better. So what you're going to do is you're going to take these first 3 sheets here, and you're going to make an inventory of what's going on with your body. It can be aches and pains. It can also be things that you want to change, like say my nose is too big, my teeth are crooked. All those reflect something, okay? So mostly what I'm looking for is pain and discomfort, okay? Because that's what our focus is here. But what is the pain and discomfort anywhere in our body? Communication, yeah. It's the reflection of what's inside of here, right? So if we want to know what's in here screwing up our lives, then we can look at the body to find where that reflection goes back to. Does that make sense? Okay? So we're just going to do exercises each time we come together in different ways. And you've got a couple different sheets. On these 2 sheets here, you can take your time, and I recommend that you mark on them and like write out in the margin, because these are your pieces of paper to keep. Pain here, pain there. Wherever it is, be very specific, because where it's located has a bunch of information, because a left shoulder pain is going to mean a world of difference than a right shoulder pain. And front shoulder pain is different than, or front shoulder pain is different than back shoulder pain. I mean, everything is very specific to location. So that's why I gave you a couple of different angles on this sheet. And this sheet here you can write on, but you can keep it for reference. We're going to go more over what the muscles relate to and how these muscles can relate. Basically, these muscles relate to the meridian system. And a lot of what I do is work with the meridian system. So take your time now and just fill out these sheets as best you can. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but we're going to spend enough for you to fill out a little bit of each piece. I know some people already worked ahead. That's fine.
And does it have to be, can it be pain? I don't have pain right this second.
Right. Yeah, it can be something that you have reoccurring that comes and goes. That's a good question. Is that what you're going to ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, me, yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got like a pain that you don't have right now, but it's typically is a habit, then mark that down. You know what I mean? You can just put habit out beside it. On the drawing is where you can draw it out specifically. Any questions on that? No? And be really specific. This is for your eyes only. If you want to share it, we can do that. But there's no one going to see this except you. Is the temperature okay for everybody? Donna, do you want me to take your coat, or are you comfortable?
I'm fine.
Good. Good.
When you're talking about the hair,
Uh-huh.
like if it was pain?
The hair can be painful, it can be dry, it can be split ends, it can be lots of different things. And I'm going to tell you what the hair relates to. The hair actually relates to a very specific part of the body. So that can tell you a lot. If you've got early gray hair, that's an issue within the body. So. What? What?
What do you consider early grade?
Well, I mean, prior to that, yeah. I mean, there's some people that actually start turning gray in their 20s, you know. That's considered early. But what is gray hair associated with? I mean, we have the information all around it. What?
Stress.
Stress. Huh?
Stress and worry.
Stress and worry, yeah. And you know what? B5, which is supposed to actually help with stress, is known to keep people from turning gray early. Because it's a gut, because the hair issue is a gut issue. It's all about your gut. Because your hair, I'm already jumping into this, your hair is the cilia within your intestines. Yeah. We were living in a huge hologram. You know, reflexology, the hands and the feet? That proves that we live in a hologram, because this means my hand is a hologram of my entire body, right? Remember, a hologram is you have this picture and you take a corner of it, and that corner reflects the entire other picture. Just like each one of us is a hologram of the entire universe. If you went inside your body, literally, it would be light emitting in different places. It would look like the stars because we have photons in the body. Photons emit light. They receive light. I mean, a huge thing, injustice that we've done to the body is we've all gone inside so much. And what happens is we miss the natural color scheme that we're getting, the color therapy, just by being outside, right? Like Bambi doing the sun gazing. That's an immensely healing thing to do. So if you went inside your body, though, imagine yourself teeny tiny, you would be inside a galaxy within itself. It's amazing to think about it that way. You know, you have the heart cluster, whatever, you know, you got the galaxy liver, you know. So it goes just as far in as it goes out, and I can guarantee you that. There's an Ayurvedic saying. Ayurvedic is a type of medicine that says, the universe is as close as the veins in your neck. You want to understand that? You want to understand the universe? You want to understand God? Understand yourself, and you'll have the key. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to ask, because I'm sure other people might benefit from the question. So for the massage therapists here that are for the CEUs and things, what you can do is you can take this information. So when you're working and taking in intake information, you can be picking up not just what's going on physically, but if you can understand what's going on mentally, emotionally with somebody, you're going to actually have a better effect with them by the time they leave, and they'll have less occurrence. Because imagine somebody comes in, and I'm going to show you something. And I'm going to give you a tactile experience, hopefully, where you can see that a lot of what our issues are come from inside. Okay. So if I go to my chiropractor weekly to get my neck adjust, right? Oh, it feels good. But then in a week, I've got the same damn pain, right? Have I really fixed anything? I've had a temporary fix. But if you get to the underlying cause of why that pain keeps occurring, the amount of time between the reoccurrence gets further and further apart. And sometimes there's instantaneous healing if you go deep enough, if you dig a hole deep enough, where that never comes back. That's what I'm shooting for. I don't see it all the time, though. You know, I'm looking for the Shazam!
What if you don't have particularly like pains, but like when you're doing your stretches?
Yeah, you can say.
Have a side that's always tight.
Yeah, tight. You can do that. So it'd be your left or right side. That would indicate, you know, especially with the batar of the body that it is. Just like I was leaning away left. And you see, I was unconscious that I was even, you know, to me, my head was straight, right? And you may think of something later, next couple of days. I recommend that you come back, pull this back out and look at it again. Because I'm going to recommend that you actually do some stuff on yourself in between coming. If you don't come next week, that's fine. If you don't come in a month, that's fine. But you can be starting to work on something now, and then when you come back next, you can keep adding to it. We're just, in this particular thing that I just started, we're going to start at the top and go to the bottom, and then we're going to go inside, and then do different things. Because internal is just as in depth as looking at the outside. Actually, like I said, the hair, that reflects inside too. So there's all these things that are happening, this holographic imprinting that happens over and over and over. It's like in a computer. The computer has some basic programs that run everything, right? And the crazy thing about a computer, like this beautiful picture here, is like it's a bunch of, you know, on and offs. It's a bunch of yes and no's is all it is. They're strung together in a very particular pattern. Our body's the exact same way. It works on a code. And this computer is a 64-bit computer, and we have 64 codons within our DNA, okay? We have the exact same system that we you know, what it's called is reverse engineering. What shows up in the physical reality is actually what's happening inside of us. So this 64 codon that governs our body and tells our computer body what to do is something that we've mimicked out in reality. Whether you're aware of it or not, that's what's happened, right? It gets really freaky when you start seeing.
Isn't that a number in the I Ching as well?
Yeah, exactly. And the 64 I Ching, if you study that, it tells you how to turn on and off different codons within the DNA. It's amazing shit.
Did you say amazing shit?
Shit. Shit. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Just a few more minutes on that. And sometimes when you're sitting here doing this, you don't think about things, but I really recommend that you take probably the next 2 days in the evenings, not tonight, but the next 2 days, pull this out and by yourself, take just 5 minutes and look over it and see if there's something you might have missed. And feel free to draw on those pictures to really pinpoint where your issue is. And for the massage therapist, you know, when you start understanding your own body, when you start looking at yourself really in depth, when somebody comes in, you can identify something. And not just massage therapy, you can identify, you know, there's lots, oh my God, there's so much information right in this area here, in the neck area, in the head area. And the crazy thing about, we're walking around just broadcasting information to each other. We're like yelling at each other, help me, you know, I'm stressed. You know, we're doing all this unconsciously. We're sending out these energy signals. And if you can read that, it actually helps you to interact with that person. And you can bring about helping them, healing them, without even actually engaging by even touching them, just by something you say. And the body is like a huge, the body is multi-layered, of course. But you can think about the computer. Okay, the computer, we have the hard drive, which contains what? The information, right? There would be nothing on my screen here without the hard drive, right? But how do I get anything to change on the screen? Keyboard, right? Because if my hard drive's in here and I have no keyboard, there's no way that I can interact with that hard drive. Well, the screen is what's on your physical body, okay? The hard drive is what is in your mind, your consciousness. Your emotions are secondary. We tend to think emotions are first. Emotions are always secondary. They always get spurred by the mind. The mind has an issue, then we have an emotion that comes from that. So we have to be able to interface with the hard drive, which is our consciousness. And there's lots of ways. One of my favorite is the EFT tapping. You know, we're basically tapping on the keyboard. The thing about that is we're doing this all the time. When we're touching different parts of our body or scratching the back of our head like Stephen, we're accessing this huge keyboard. And just stop looking. And then you can get tons of information just by getting somebody to describe something to you.
So we're basically a big touch screen.
Yeah, it's like a huge touch screen. Yeah, and that's what we're going to, right? And in a way that's amazing. Like some of the stuff that, you see that movie, what was it, Minority Report, where they do all this stuff? You know, we were thinking like that was made up. Well, they're doing that stuff now, right? Glass is basically a way of interacting with the computer. And we're doing that more and more. I think eventually there won't even be a medium that we need. It's just basically right there. So I think we're going to move on. Recommend, looks like most people's pens have stopped. I recommend that you can go back and look at this at any particular time. I'm just going to ask for those that want to share anything to feel free to, we can discuss, and we need to look at each other. You know, doing the writing is one part, right? Then we have to do the active part, which is talk about it, discuss it. You know, so there's somebody that's open about it, sharing some kind of pain or issue they have, we can discuss that. Does that make sense? If I just tell you what all this relates to, it's like reading a book, right? I want you to have a tactile experience so you can put this with this, right? So has anybody got anything that they want to discuss around a particular issue with the head, neck, or shoulders that they've got going on or is reoccurring?
I have a dropped right shoulder.
Okay, a dropped right shoulder. It's lower than the left, okay?
I do too.
Oh,
I have a raised.
a right raised shoulder. Okay, the shoulders are really simple in the basis. Now this stuff you need to write down, and the reason I didn't write this down is because what happens when you write something down yourself? It sticks with you, right? Okay, so shoulders are easy. Think of Atlas. Atlas does what? Holds up the world. And what's interesting is the very top vertebrae that we have is called the Atlas because it's holding up this huge globe, right? This 10-pound globe that we have. So Atlas holds up the world, right? So shoulders represent holding up your world, literally. You're only going to have pain when what?
It's too heavy.
Yeah, that was really good, like Angie said, when your life is too heavy, right? When it's an issue. Your only pain shows up when you have an issue with what's going on. Does that make sense? Only pain shows up when you have an issue with what's going on. If you get that, your life can change. Because you can go into your pain. Typically what happens is we start hurting, and then we'll go, okay, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to take my attention off of it. So it's just kind of in the background. But what's really interesting is you focus on it, and you let the pain intensify, and you let it into you instead of trying to avoid it. It actually starts to go away. It's like when you smash your finger. What's one of the first things you do? Cuss. You hold your breath, right? You hold your breath because you're trying not to feel. If you breathe through it, it hurts like holy hell, but it'll heal a lot quicker because you didn't stop that meridian energy from flowing. Okay, like the thumb is the lung meridian. Does that make sense? Okay, so shoulders represent your responsibilities. So with Mary Ann's right shoulder being higher, I first got to say this. Some of y'all know this because y'all been with me for a while. The left side of the body is related to female. Right side is masculine. So let's just look at this little book. So we have one issue, right? Mary Ann's right shoulder, she carries it higher than her left. That's all the information we have. Now we're going to actually make up a story. Just from that one little word, we're going to have a whole book. We're going to have a whole line here, okay? So we have masculine side. Right side relates to what? I mean, right side is masculine. Shoulders relate to what? Burdens and responsibilities. So here she is hiking her right shoulder higher than her left. What is that saying? Just make it up.
Her male energy.
Huh?
Her male and your energy is overworking.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good interpretation. So here's the thing, is because you open the book of translation, that's why I don't like it all completely written down, is because out of one issue you could have 10, 20 different possibilities, okay? So you've got to find out what works for that person.
Is her right shoulder elevated or is her left shoulder
No, her right shoulder's elevated.
under?
Right shoulder's elevated, okay? Right shoulder's elevated, like she, would you say that again, Carla?
That she's got male, too much male.
Okay,
overworking.
she's saying
Too much
she's,
male energy.
so Carla said maybe she's overworking her masculine energy. What's another possibility?
Maybe she's trying to hold up for masculine
Okay,
energy.
that's another one.
Maybe
What's
she's
one similar to
flashing
that?
other-
So here's the thing. Remember, this is the screen. So sometimes the screen isn't always just reflecting us. It's reflecting what's in our life, just like feng shui. Feng shui works because it literally, I mean, I can literally walk in anybody's house knowing feng shui and tell you what's exactly going on in their consciousness because it's one of those patterns that the computer works off. We do it unconsciously. You don't have to know about feng shui. You're doing it already, guaranteed. Okay? So your life, your entire life, not just your house, your car, everything is feng shuied around you. So this right shoulder may be, if this, okay, feminine, masculine, right? It may not just be feminine, her femininity, her masculinity. It could be a feminine figure. It could be a masculine figure.
Could she be overcompensating for not enough male support?
Yeah, and that's another way, but thinking that.
Could it be defensive posture?
See, the defensive posture tends to, no, defensive posture tends to be going more to the left, because that's where we take it in. The right, I tend to think, since she's going straight up, is more about what she's trying to carry. So it could be, all I'm trying to bring in, another translation would be that she has issue with carrying a masculine figure in her life. Does any of that make sense, Marianne? What?
Oh, yeah.
See, that's how it works, right? Is it getting too warm in here?
Yes.
Okay. Once this energy gets
Is it close? My left shoulder is not raised.
Your right would be your right one.
Yeah. What did I just say?
You said the left.
See, I was getting so far away from it.
So can you see just with that little bitty movement in the body, how much information we had? So of what we said, Marianne, what fit? If you feel free to share that. You don't have to. Huh? What?
I have problems with my significant other, and he's a male.
Yeah. Okay. So it could be her body is reflecting she's got an issue with carrying something emotionally, because carrying, I mean, issues can be physical, mental, emotional, right? So it could be just emotionally feeling like she's having to carry, or like Katie said, she's not feeling supported masculine, so feels like she's having to add more of her masculinity into that. He's not there to help support, you know what I mean? That's a lot of information just from that one, right? The body, every part of the body is doing that all the freaking time, okay? Anybody else?
My shoulders, my left one feels like it goes forward more.
Okay.
When I was running today, I feel like I run like a crab.
Like a crab?
Like a crab. I'm running.
Huh. Are you a Cancer?
Mm-hmm. I sure am.
Yep. There's something to that. See, I tell you, it's a freaking hologram. It is. I'm so convinced now.
It's so creepy speaking.
Yeah. So, and I love that, because when you ask a question like that and they go, yeah, where would that come from left field, right? All right, everybody, from our astrology, how our body looks, how we do certain things is reflected in it. I'm a Capricorn. It's like the goat, right? I tend to have, Capricorns tend to have some kind of facial hair. Cancers, what do crabs do? How do they walk? Sideways. Right? And there's an issue with, okay, remember I said this is a guarded position, right? Okay? If you're going like this. Cancer, what part of the body does the astrology Cancer represent? I mean, there's so many maps that we could go over. The chest. That's why Cancer is associated with emotions. So you're guarding some heart issues. That's what Cancers do, is they guard their heart. Cancer's about being inside your shell. Your shell is your chest, right? So you're guarding your emotions. So one simple way that you can do to change that is you change your posture. You purposely do the other. You make yourself open up. Because if energy's coming in this way, if I'm doing this, what am I doing? If I do this, it may hurt like hell because I'm having to feel things I'm not trying to feel, but man, you start really opening up, okay? So you can forcibly change your posture to change. That's the amazing thing about your body. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay? So you're guarding your heart, because that's what Cancers do, because it feels safer that way. That was my...
Is this along the same line as like someone who's pelvic turn? Like
that can be. Pelvic can be a little bit different, because pelvic is moving into the Scorpio part of the body, and it has to do with sexuality. So there could be sexual issues, like say that if there was some sexual misconduct, that could be a protecting pattern there. It also gets into the second chakra and the root chakra. So it's like the translation could be, that's what could be one translation would be like protecting of the creativity, could just be creativity, or protecting of their sexuality, but it could be even so much more in depth. And it may not just be that's all there is to that, but that would be just, you can just like try to do that and see if it'll feel awkward. And why will it feel awkward? Because she's used to doing the other pattern, right? But when you keep doing the same damn pattern, what are you going to keep getting? The same damn answer, right? Right. So,
Definition of reason.
yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good.
And this crazy thing is astrology, all this stuff ties in together. You cannot separate it. You cannot separate it. And that's why the people in medical field aren't seeing the whole picture, because they're not looking at the whole picture. Anybody else? Anything particular?
Let's talk about our right shoulder.
Okay, just sorry about that.
Yeah.
Dropped right shoulder. So let's all play with this because I want you to start being able to do this. What do we know about the right side of the body? First thing, masculine. Okay, that could be what masculine? It could be her masculine, right? Okay.
Or it could be a masculine figure.
Or it could be a masculine figure. What would the dropped shoulder indicate to you?
Pressure getting in.
It's like the weight is too much, right? You know, have you ever carry a backpack? You know, like the worst thing you can do is carry a backpack. You know, they're real cool. I'm the worst about that. And I put it on one side. You look like a dork when you're. But you know, but wearing it on one side actually causes lots of problems. It cuts right through the trapezius muscle. It interferes with blood flow. You know, your shoulders really aren't made to hold a bunch of things up. I mean, seriously, your shoulders are not made to hold things up. Try doing this all day. You'll hurt like hell. Your shoulder's not meant to hold things up, okay?
When did that start?
Do what? Exactly. Yeah, the breasts are an issue with that too. I mean, lots of people have the breast tissue pulling down upon that. People like Burns with big blah. So here we have Deborah's left shoulder. Let's go back to Deborah. So it could be what?
Dropped right shoulder, dropped right.
Masculine. Could be would you say, Bambi, too much pressure?
Male
Caving, like caving under pressure could be an issue, right? Okay.
I take on
Oh, okay. So if you're taking on a lot, it's like I get images in my head. It's like I saw this video. I don't know if I post or not. Where these people are in another country, barely have anything, and they're making these bricks and they're making these houses, and they would stack these bricks. I mean, literally throw it up and catch it, and they're like carrying these things all over. So it makes me think, like, here's all these bricks. You know, what's going to happen? So you're maybe over-exercising your masculine energy and taking on too much, and it's time for you to shift that. And what is this movement? Shrug. Shrug some of your internally placed responsibility so you can balance back out. Does that make sense? Shrug it off. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So, is there any point in the significance of the drop right compared to a raised left? You would, instead of focusing on a raised left.
Okay, well, the raise is going to be more like you're still active in doing it, right? And the right is like it's slowly, slowly weighing down on you, right? And it's like if it's raised, to me, if we're talking about burdens, you're still trying really hard. You haven't reached the point where it's like, where this falls off broken. Which can happen when you're so tense all the time that your body finally pendulum swings the other way, you know what I mean? And takes you out. Does that make sense? So one is when because it takes a lot of energy. You try it. It takes a lot of energy to hold that shoulder up. Okay? That means you've got to have the energy to do it. So once you've lost the energy, you've been doing it for so long that your body's tired of it. So it could be like, I'm tired. So Marianne might be, I'm actively trying to support my man who's not supporting me. And Deborah would be like, I'm tired of supporting and taking on too much responsibility. And the body's like, well, stop doing it. So then you shrug it off, and then, I'll balance out. Where Marianne is going to be a little bit different. She may have to step up and start putting more energy into her feminine side purposely to balance that off. It'd be a different shift for everybody, What else? Anybody else in the face, head, neck, shoulders?
Eczema inside the ears. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have lots of pain in my neck, right here.
Right in the trapezius
I
area?
don't know, but it just hurts really bad right here, and I think it's just like tension and stress.
Okay. Yeah, most people carry a lot of tension in the neck area. Okay, you might want to write this down. Okay, we have 3 parts of the body. The head is the thinking, the torso is the doing, and the legs, of course, are the moving. Okay? One thing that comes to mind with the neck area, just the neck straight off, is if you have a conflict between something you think you should be doing, but you're not doing it, you're in conflict with yourself, which means you're going to cause neck pain, right? You're doing something, so you think you should be doing something, but you're not doing it, or you're doing something that you think you should not be doing. See how those don't match? And you're going to cause these 2 body parts to fight with each other, because you're like, no, I need to be doing this, and you're like, I don't feel like doing, so you're fighting with yourself, and you're fucking causing the problem. Does that make sense? That may not be the only issue. This whole area here, going to your colored sheet, see all this yellow in the neck area? That's all stomach energy.
Is it the same front and back, I guess?
Yeah. Not the same muscles, but
No, but
okay.
same
Yellow equals
stomach.
Yes, yellow is the earth element, and that's stomach and spleen. And that's what I've taught in 5 element stuff, and I can't go over everything.
So in this, with the neck being the connection between the torso and the head,
Uh-huh.
okay, then you would have, say, where the thigh.
Right.
This would be the strained area,
Mhm.
whenever the movement part isn't not congruent with the doing part.
Exactly. Like you're doing something that's preventing you from moving forward, is one way of looking at that. Like say you're wanting to lose weight, but you keep doing the wrong thing. You know, you keep sabotaging yourself. Those two things are not in balance. And what's going to happen is you're going to become unstable, unbalanced in this area, right? So what I'm trying to bring here in the information on the neck is all about stomach mostly, okay? And what happens is, and this is a really cool thing that you can do, this is language we're giving all the time. If somebody holds their neck like this while you're talking to them, or is like, what they're really saying is, you know, I really don't have the energy to stomach what you're talking about. I can't digest this right now. That's the kind of information we're sending off all the time. So any kind of neck pain is usually like, I've got too much going on, I can't take any more in, right? It's like, here's your plate. Because the analogy, you know, we talk about too much being on your plate, and you're going to have to eat that, like the kid at the table. Your mom says you can't have the dessert until you eat that, and you wind up sitting there, everybody else is gone, and you're sitting there all alone, and the food's cold. Of course, it's horrible now. And you're like, you cannot make yourself eat it, right? So the stomach could be, I'm stressed out about something, and I cannot take it in because it makes me more stressed, because stomach governs stress. You know, the butterflies in the stomach, that's all about anxiety. So if you cannot stomach your stress, you're going to start having neck issues, because it's like, I can't take it anymore. And then you have to start getting away from stuff. A cool thing that happened to me one time meditating is we have the 5 elements, which are in the shape of a star. Of course, my hand doesn't quite do a star shape. But we have fire, earth, metal, circle around, water, and wood. Fire, when you burn the crops, it actually feeds the earth minerals. We find minerals in the earth. Minerals perspire. You have water. Water feeds wood, and wood feeds fire. And then you have a controlling cycle where they all crisscross within one another. So stomach, what came to me one time, is the answer to the problems, the emotional problems within the 5 elements. Fire is related to the heart. It's joy and sadness. Okay? It's like a seesaw. Earth is stomach and spleen. It's worry, anxiety. Metal, that's your colon and your lungs. That has to do with control issues, grief. Remember, how can you let go, colon, if you've got some grief going on? Water element is kidneys and bladder. That's fear. That's the time of year we're in right now, by the way. I put a post on my Facebook about that. Fear is water, and that's complete contraction. And then we have wood, which is liver and gallbladder, and that's the emotion anger. Okay? So they all work together in different ways. So what happens is fire. I begin to think about that. Fire is all moving and dancing, right? If you dance and move, even though you're sad, you change that emotion. Okay? With worry, which is the next one, earth does what? If you look at earth, what does it do? It just sits there still, right? So when you worry, the answer to that is actually stillness of mind, and meditation actually heals worry. Does that make sense? So like with wood, wood has to do with anger. Wood is very patient. Trees are very old. They sit there for a very long time. Patience cures anger. So there's so much I could go into, but that can come into play too. So if we're stressed and we got so much going on, it's like your neck's like saying, okay, you need to get away from everything. And here's the thing, is we tend to escape inappropriately. Momentary escapes of distraction, like watching TV. Sex can be a distraction, although it is a fun distraction. It can be a distraction. Food is one of the biggest distractions. We judge people out there because they smoke crack and smoke cigarettes, but you know what? Almost everyone that I know has some type of food addiction. And that food addiction isn't an addiction, it's like crack, okay? So sometimes we will distract our stressful state with a food, which then hits the stomach. Remember I talked about worry? Hits the stomach, especially we crave sweets. And the reason we do that is because, so many maps I could go on. Okay, the stomach relates to sweet. Stomachs, pancreas, and spleen are considered one. Sweetness. So when we eat sweet things, it slows the stomach energy down. So when we're stressed, we unconsciously grab a sweet thing because it does slow the stress down. But the bad thing about that is if you're stressed at your neck and your stomach deals with you being able to take in more, right? And you just dampened it and it made you feel momentarily okay emotionally, what are you doing in the long run? You're making it harder and harder for you to keep digesting what you need to digest. You see what I'm saying? You get in a negative pattern. You got to start feeding yourself appropriately to where the burdens begin to lift off. Does that make sense? And we get caught in these traps. And the body's talking to us 24/7 in millions of ways.